In the space of a couple of days, West Ham got back-to-back wins in the Premier League, the latest being a 3-2 victory at the London Stadium against Burnley, managed by former Hammer of the Year, 3-time back-to-back year Scott Parker was in the dugout. I think then my big frustration, and I think it's probably a frustration probably a lot of West Ham fans share, and I'd like to know what you thought on it. The fact that we've obviously had these two results back-to-back and the teams that have been put out, I think probably, whilst I'm pleased about it, it probably shines a light on, if not the Brentford team selection, but certainly the team selection against Leeds. And you sit there and go, it could have been more. We could, in that 4-game sequence, Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, Burnley, we've got 6 points. I suspect could have been more if Nuno would have maybe selected the starting lineup that he's done in the previous 2 games against at least Leeds, if not Brentford.
Oh, absolutely, Rob. I mean, look, I don't like. It's one of those, yeah. Especially the Leeds game, but I mean, Brentford run rings round us. Do you know what I mean? I think they were just by far the better side, and I kind of feel like no matter what team we put out, we wouldn't have won that game. But definitely Leeds. I mean, the team selection was hugely baffling. But, you know, because he's now changed it and got those 2 wins, I kind of think, well, I'll let him have that because he's a new manager. He's getting to know. I mean, he should know the fucking players before he steps foot in the door, shouldn't he? You know, A Premier League football manager should know, well, he's a left back, he's a right back, what their best positions are. He was trying different things, but I think you try different things in fucking training, yeah? Not in a game against, like Leeds, against a relegation rival, that 3 points at the end of the season could be massive, and we've just written it off. But, listen, we're off the back of 2 straight wins, so I don't really want to look back at that. I like to think that his experiment failed, and he's learnt from it, and then we move forward. So, you know, we've got a good, you know, because we're off the back of 2 wins, I'm kind of liking what I'm hearing from Nuno. And I'm thinking, well, he's got another 2 weeks because of the international break to work with the players and get to know them better. And we move forward. The frustrating thing for me, Rob, is that even going back further than like the Leeds and the Brentford game, fuck me. Some of the players, and you know, I'm probably going to mention his name fairly soon. Some of the players that are playing now, they should have been in the fucking first team from the first game of the season, and we wouldn't even be in the relegation zone right now.
Who could you mean, I wonder?
Mate, it's no coincidence. As soon as Freddie Potts comes in, right, all of a sudden we've got someone that knows that he will fucking, when that ball's there, when that ball's spilt 2 or 3 meters, 2 or 3 yards there, he'll fucking slide in to get it because he fucking wants it. He wants it because, well, you know, probably number one, because he wants to prove to the fucking world I'm a Premier League player. And he's, you know, but number 2, he's lived and breathed being a West Ham fan forever. And I think he'll run through a brick wall for the club. Whereas Guido Rodriguez will not.
Yeah.
Listen, you know, better late than never, but it's no coincidence that as soon as these players are brought in, all of a sudden, we've won 2 games on the spin. And we're starting to compete in games, whereas before they just fucking drifted away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I've been banging the Freddie Potts drum, same as you. And yeah, it's not a fact that's lost on me that he's come into the starting lineup. You know, even if before that, he was introduced against Everton away. And I thought that it was basically his introduction that our best play came off of the back of his introduction, and I didn't think it was coincidental. And then obviously he didn't get selected for the subsequent couple of games. Obviously those results didn't go the way that we wanted it to. Now he's come in, and again, I don't think it's a coincidence that there's been an upturn in the results, but B, probably more importantly for me, the effectiveness of that midfield part of the pitch, which is absolutely vital to any team's success.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's still not perfect, but what you've got in there is, you know, a bit more of a structure. Someone that, you know, what I think he's good at, and I know we're sort of jumping straight into it.
No.
You know, what he's good at, and I noticed this against last week against Newcastle, and again, right? When the ball, and I hate to say it, it's very similar to Rice, right? Is that when the ball is getting cut across the box, he's there cutting it out in like the middle of the box. Like, do you know what I mean? He gets a lot of clearances that could be dangerous positions. And what I think he really does that I like is that he tends to get the ball moving quickly.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It might not be that he's done anything amazing in a defence splitting pass, which actually he can do, and he done yesterday a few times. Yeah. But when he gets the ball, when there's an opportunity to move it quickly, he does it. And it's very simple, but we wasn't doing that before. Do you know what I mean? We were saying 2 touch, 3 touch, and look, he's still got a long way to go. Obviously, he's only started 2 games. What else I think he brings to the table as well, I know he's only 20, he's 22, yeah, so he's young, but he's not a kid. Yeah, I think I get the impression he's a bit of a talker. Like, do you know what I mean? We are, and actually, this is a point we'll come on to, right? We're massively lacking leadership in that side. Yeah. We've lost, and this is poor planning from, I think, Potter. Yeah. In the last few years, we've lost Mark Noble, Declan Rice, fucking Angelo Bonner, Aaron Cresswell, Zuma, all of which that you would think are quite influential in the dressing room, even if they're not playing every game. Yeah. But also when they're on a pitch, I guarantee they're vocal when they're talking. And then they've all gone. And then all of a sudden, we go a goal down. And before the last 2 games, we just average go. There's a lack of leadership. I feel Freddie Potts is a bit of a leader, even though he's a young man.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think the fact that he's a young man precludes him from having a key role. I know he's not a key player in terms of the amount of games that he's played. I get that. But in terms of what you can see, his burgeoning influence and his potential. And look, as you mentioned it earlier, he is from West Ham stock. His father is sitting on the bench. He's a coach. He's a former captain. He's a former Hammer of the Year. He's played in multiple positions. He came through the academy system. Steve Potts knows West Ham inside and out, and Freddie Potts is his son. So Freddie Potts will know very well what West Ham fans expect, what the club expects, and all the rest of it. So we don't need to give him any of that backstory. Yeah.
And Rob, I know we're sort of going on our soapbox about Freddie Potts, and I'm not saying yesterday he played like a prime Zinedine Zidane, but he had a good game, right?
Yeah.
But exactly what you say, Rob. You think let's compare him to like Magassa, yeah? And I'm not even talking about them as footballers, but you think like the background of Steve Potts, I can well imagine, right? And he probably don't need to be told this, but Steve Potts is probably saying to Freddie Potts, you need to get this fucking crowd on side, yeah? That when that ball gets fucking spilt, you put in a fucking hard tackle and the crowd will fucking get behind you. So I think he knows that, and he'll be going into it. He'll be going out on that pitch thinking, I'm in the middle of the park. I can fucking make a big influence on this game by just biting into tackles and doing the right thing. So look, we are a club that whether, in our DNA is having young homegrown players. And I'll be straight with you, throughout this season or when I Potter or whatever, when I see not even one homegrown player on the pitch, I think I don't even want to watch us fucking play, because that's not fucking why I'm here. Yeah. All of a sudden, now Freddie Potts is in there, I fucking want to watch us play. And I'm not just saying him. I think because, look, I am a West Ham fan, but that just gives me even more motivation to think now I'm fucking interested because I want to watch him.
Yeah. Yeah. And also,
and I'm telling you now, people might feel I'm going over the top. We could bring in Lionel Messi, right? I wouldn't, and people go, oh, I'd love to see Messi play in the flesh. I don't care, right? I'll be straight with you. I'd rather have fucking Freddie. I'd rather watch a couple of our homegrown fucking youngsters get a chance and take their chance like Freddie Potts has done than watch fucking some little Argentinian midget that can fucking run around everyone.
Yeah. Fair play. You heard it here first. Freddie Potts is better than Lionel Messi.
You know that's not what I'm saying, but just from my perspective, my fucking moral compass is set up in that way.
Yeah.
So
no, that's fine, mate. That's fine. I'll weave that into the title.
I know the headline now. What it's going to say. Freddie Potts is better
than Messi. Brilliant. That'll get people clicking.
Yeah, if you've got some ready-made clickbait right there.
Absolutely. We'll go with that. Okay, let's we're over 11 and a half minutes in. I haven't even asked you. I've got my standard questions here ready to ask you. We hadn't even done the first one. We've just sort of gone into this monologue about Freddie Potts.
Yeah, but right? You done the dirty one on me last week, but I've been fucking chomping at the bit, and then our first big win, and you've done a slippery one without me. So now this is my payback.
Hang on. You know the reason for that. I told you it was all the timings. It didn't work out. So anyway, right, let's get into it. So Ben, obviously, let's get the starting lineup. So I'll have to get this up on the screen. So we started with Areola in goal, and I've got it here as a 4-3-3. Whether it actually was, I don't know. It might have been more a 4-2-3-1, but whatever. It was the back four was Diouf left, Wan-Bissaka right, and I don't know how I feel about this. It was a change that Nuno made against Newcastle, where he swapped over the centre backs. Todibo right-footed on the left, Kilman left-footed on the right. It seemed to work well against Newcastle, so I suppose why change it? And he didn't. And then obviously you move forward. There's Lionel Messi. Freddie Potts striding in central midfield as a sort of like a defensive shield, a la Declan Rice, Lucas Paqueta, Mateus Fernandes, Crescencio Somerville, Jared Bowen, and Callum Wilson through the middle. What were your thoughts on that starting lineup, Ben?
I think it's the best starting lineup that we've got, most likely. Mm-hmm. It's probably the best starting lineup we got. And I think, without being negative, I think that probably goes to show that our recruitment recently has not been very good. But however, I say that, then a couple of lads come off the bench and score 2 goals. So, that's everyone is chipping in at the moment, albeit that I think the squad is very thin of quality players.
Probably the reason why we're in the position we're in the Premier League.
Exactly, yeah. The table doesn't lie. I think, do you know what? It's only in recent years that people have been talking about, a left-sided centre-back.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it doesn't matter. Listen, for someone that's played football for a long time, not at anywhere the standard we're talking about. Yeah. However, do you hear anyone ever talk about a left-sided central midfielder? No. Not really. You're in the middle of the park and you run around the middle of the park. Now, I get centre-halves different, that you're kind of more stationary for more periods of the time. But I just think a good centre-half is a good centre-half no matter what side they're playing on. And, they're training every day. Them two have looked better. I mean, there's still some shaky moments yesterday.
Yeah.
But look, overall, when I saw the team, I was, it was as expected because we're off the back of a decent win. So you'd expect it to be the same side. So, I still feel, I don't know if sad is the right word. I feel Souček's unlucky not to be starting, coming off the bench and scoring last week and then obviously doing it again. However, if he can come off the bench and get half an hour every game and nick a goal, I'm sure he won't mind that contribution, and neither will we.
No, absolutely not. And I'll be honest, I've often wondered what Tomas Souček would look like playing as a centre forward, and he's got 2 in 2, so you can't really argue with that. But
no.
First half performance, Ben, tell me what were your thoughts? Because for me, it was a little bit of a mixture of a little bit of the frustration of conceding the opening goal as we did against Newcastle. But then I actually thought we reacted really well to going a goal down. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, probably the same, Rob. I think look, I'm going to talk about the first half, but overall, I actually think we was a little bit lucky getting the win. On the balance of the game in the entirety. I mean, Burnley actually looked quite a good footballing side. And I've got to be honest, that's reminiscent of every Scott Parker team I've seen, that they actually play nice football, but they end up getting beat a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean?
Certainly when they're in the Premier League. He's got a good record of getting teams into the Premier League from the champ, but once they get into the champ, it doesn't quite seem to work so well. But
yeah, no, but I do think he's a top manager in the making. Like, you know, I feel like his ups and downs of managerial, you know, being a manager, I think he'll be a top manager. Hope maybe with us one day, who knows? But look, analysing that game, you're right. I mean, at home against Burnley, who have the lowest possession stats in the league, you would have liked that we fucking, you know, bear in mind we've got a Brazilian starting fucking central midfielder in our side. Yep. I don't know how we're getting dominated in possession at home to Burnley. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they had 58% of the ball.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But analysing the first half, Rob, I think Burnley were probably the better side. However, when we did have a good reaction when we went 1-0 down, you know, but you think, you do think, well, why are we playing with intensity now we're losing? Why have you guys just been really plodding along for the first half an hour, letting you know, someone run the game? Yeah, but we did it. You know, Somerville looked like he was our bright spark, especially in that first half. That you know, at least when he got it, he'd try and make things happen. And I think it was him and Freddie Potts that linked up quite nicely at the corner. And yeah, he's jinked in, had a shot, and Callum Wilson. And if I'm honest, I don't think he had a good game, but he was in the right place at the right time just to nod it over the line. So I was pleased that we went in 1-0, if I'm honest, because I thought Burnley had been the better team.
What did you make of the goal that Burnley scored? Who do you, if there is any, I don't like to use the word blame because look, we want to see goals, you know, but if you look at a goal, you can usually pick up a mistake on the side of the team that's conceded the goal. I mean, for me, I think there was two mistakes there. I think that the defending of the cross from Malik Diouf, I'm sorry, he's great going forwards defensively. He's absolutely fucking shocking. And then Kilman, he allowed was it Fleming? He allowed Fleming to get the jump on him again. He had a good game last week against Newcastle. You know, he really did. But again, sort of kind of went back into his shell a little bit. The sort of meek and mild version of Kilman, the pussy version of Kilman. just got done by that world-class striker for Burnley, Zian Fleming. Very disappointing.
Yeah, the same as you, Rob. I think, look, Diouf, he's only 20. The commentator said that, you know what I mean? So I think he's a young lad. He will have to start improving his defending because he's a good athlete and he's good going forward. It's either that, Rob, or we don't play him as a left back. We play him as further forward, you know, because I think his best attributes are attacking. So I'd consider him as a potential left winger. But yeah, like you say, and then you've got to ask questions. To be honest, mate, you've got to ask questions of the whole team because Burnley had the ball for quite a while before they scored. Yeah. And one thing that concerns me is I think we're very, very bad out of possession. Yeah. Like sometimes, you know, we don't have much intensity to win the ball back when other teams have it. We'll just let them have it. And I don't like that. But yeah, Kilman could have done better. Like, you know, he didn't really get close to him. So look, when the ball's in the box like that and the striker has a free header, you've got to ask questions of the centre half. And we could have defended that situation better.
Yeah, I asked myself the question, and all right, maybe I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, but I asked myself the question: would Tony Adams have allowed himself to get out jumped by a opposition centre forward like that? And the answer is abso-fucking-lutely not. And even if he'd had sort of like jumped up with him and the striker still gets a head on the ball and puts it away, at least he looks like he's had a fucking go. Kilman's just on the ground.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, do you know what I think it stems from? It's that awareness of where the fucking striker is. Like, do you get what I mean? If you're a good centre half, you'll know that he's there, and actually you'll be touch tight. And as the ball comes over, yeah, you get the jump and compete with the geezer. But it's like neither centre half knew where the striker was, and he had the run and the jump, and it was quite an easy goal for him.
Yeah. But anyway, so we get in half-time 1-1, as you say, Callum Wilson with the goal, and come out the second half. And what were your thoughts on what unfolded in the second 45? Obviously, there was a few changes that were made on both sides, and one of them had two of them actually had a key influence in the points being retained by the home team in, obviously, the introduction of Tomas Souček for Freddie Potts. I've not actually found any. I mean, to be honest, I've not looked because I've had so many other things on since the game finished. I'm hoping that Freddie Potts' withdrawal was more precautionary than anything, for reasons that we've obviously already gone into. And then obviously there was the introduction of, with 7 minutes to go, of Kyle Walker-Peters. But despite that fact, they were both key introductions, key substitutions from the manager. But what was your overall thoughts of that second 45 on the West Ham's behalf?
I think it was all right. It was all right. I mean, look, the overall assessment of the game was, listen, we got the 3 points. We keep the winning. The second half performance was I think it was slightly better than the first half. But I still think Burnley passed the ball better than we did and kept possession better than we did. Don't think, but it reminded me very much of a David Moyes type performance. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I've said this, that I'm not being funny. Nuno, for me, and he may well do a good job, and I hope he does a good job, but Nuno, for me, is basically a Portuguese version of David Moyes, and I said that right from the off. And
I've got no problem with that, Rob, really, because
if we win.
Because I think, look at what Moyes done overall, and since he left, we've tried to go with the more, how can I put it, possession-based type manager, and it hasn't worked. So, if we get back to what we're good at with a manager that suits that style, then listen, then let's go for it. So look, Souček's come on again. We scored 3 quite scruffy goals. Do you know what I mean? None of them are going to be in a fucking goal of the month competition, are they? Yeah,
probably not.
And let's be honest, I'd say that their goalies probably had a bit of a stinker for the last 2. But we've got ourselves in front, and all of a sudden, from looking a few games ago, like, we couldn't stop conceding and we couldn't score a goal. All of a sudden, we're getting a few lucky breaks, which is good to see.
Absolutely. So Tomas Souček, obviously, as I say, he's got 2 in 2 now, used as an auxiliary striker, as a sort of an impact sub, finisher, call it what you want.
Yeah.
What do you think that he can probably feel hard done by if we roll round to the Burnley game, and having come on to good effect and scored 2 goals in 2 games? Do you think there's a place for him in the starting lineup, or do you think that's not his role now?
No, I think there is, Rob, and I think Paqueta's suspended, isn't he? So he's got a better chance of. Yeah, Paqueta picked up his 5th booking.
Okay. Oh, there's a shock.
So look, I think Tomas Souček, he can feel hard done by. However, I think he's a good pro and got a good attitude, and he'll think, even if I'm coming on with half an hour to go, at least he's making a big contribution when he's on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? So I think Nuno's. They all seem to be smiling at the moment, and even when they're, for example, Kyle Walker-Peters, I do actually really rate him as a player, but if he's coming on and fucking helping the team, then I think they'll be happy that it's a squad game. Do you know what I mean? And they will get their chance.
Good. Good. What did you make of the goal that Souček contributed with?
I was just,
Scruffy, you mentioned earlier.
Bit scruffy. I think their goalie could have done a lot better, and I think it's come off his stomach. But you've got to be there to get those opportunities, and he had a big influence in the third goal as well, with him having the shot. So the reality is, Rob, I think if Tomas Souček doesn't come on, we don't win that game. But he's and that's the impact you need from your subs.
Yeah, worked very well, the substitutions. I thought if there's any positives to take out of it, I think that's one of them. Who was your star players for? Well, fuck Burnley. I'm not really bothered about who their star player is. I'll tell you what. Before we get into that, and I will reference this because there is a little bit of a tinge of disappointment. Whilst I'm happy with the 3 points, I think I need to mention this. One of the things that I'm really pissed off about was the second goal that Burnley scored, which was completely irrelevant as far as the result was concerned. However, when you consider that had we won 3-1 and not 3-2, we would now be out of the relegation zone because we would have exactly the same record as Burnley in terms of games won, games drew, games lost, goals scored, goals conceded, goal difference. But we'd have been separated by them by the head-to-head record by virtue of a 3-1 win. With that goal going in, that now changes things completely, and we're now back in the bottom 3, which I know you look at the points, you look at the goal difference and go, whatever, but it's a confidence thing. Going into that international break, we're not in the bottom 3. Wow, that would psychologically be such a lift. And I was so disappointed. I've watched that goal again, Ben. I watched it in real time, and Areola was squawking about he reckoned it was a foul and this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting there thinking, mate, I've just watched it in real time and I don't really see what was wrong with it. And I've watched it on replay from different angles, and I'm watching it and I'm like, this is a World Cup winning goalkeeper by all accounts. He's played in European finals. He's played in leagues around Europe. And that strike he needs to fucking deal with. It's basic. You either do one of two things, mate. You either fucking catch it and hold it, or if it's moving and it's quick and it's dipping and whatever, fucking punch it away, put it away for the corner. Not that, for fuck's sake. You're basically giving them a goal.
Yeah, do you know what, right? I didn't realise that. I thought the goal difference was more than that. And I thought we had to beat them like 4-0 to catch up with them. But
enough.
Oh, fucking hell. That is really disappointing, actually.
That goal.
I didn't realise that. So look, it is disappointing, and it's a shame because even though he didn't have loads to do, I'd actually put on our WhatsApp group, Areola's had a good game, like literally fucking 2 minutes before. And maybe it was my fault. I put the kiss to death on him because he made quite a good save from a free kick.
Yeah.
A few minutes before, he'd been fairly solid, and I'm pleased for him. You know what I mean? Because I've actually always rated him as a goalie, even though he has had some really shaky moments. But I always thought, no, I still do rate him. But look, that is very disappointing. He could have done a lot better. But it just goes to show how important the fucking Walker-Peters goal was.
Yeah.
And, listen, I know he was playing out of position in left midfield, but, he's a good pro and he'll still work hard for the side. So, yeah, Bowen will be disappointed because he was there to tap it in, but good for Walker-Peters.
I thought he was quite ineffective, but, so who's your man of the match for West Ham?
I mean, I think if he hadn't come off, Freddie Potts was well in contention. But I'd probably say Fernandez. He looked lively. He was sort of putting tackles in, bursting forward. Yeah, he put in a good central midfield performance. So I'm going to say Fernandez was probably the man of the match for me.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I think that a week or two ago I was asking questions, and I do understand football players do not set the price tag that's on their head, but this is a player that, if all the add-ons and all the rest of it are triggered, is a £40 million player. Now, okay, maybe a £40 million player for the likes of Manchester City and the likes of Bayern Munich and whoever, maybe a £40 million player probably isn't even guaranteed to be on the bench. But at West Ham United, that is a fair chunk of change, and we expect a return on that investment.
Yeah.
Very often we don't, and there's been players down the years that we've spent that sort of money on, but this needs to work. He needs to work. And in recent weeks, I've looked at his performances and I've thought that doesn't look like a £40 million player. I think yesterday, he did. I have to put the caveat in and say, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful sense, but we were playing Burnley. We were
and I get that. And do you know what, Rob? There's a lot of room for improvement, because from my point of view, even though I think Potts played well and Fernandez played well, Burnley still controlled most of that game. Yes. So even though those players played well individually in moments, there's still something not quite right. If Burnley are dominating the midfield, like really, because I think they did. Paqueta, disappointing for me. He got an assist, but I just feel he needs to be doing a lot more. But you know what? It's one of them though, Rob. I kind of look at our side now, and like I just said, Diouf's only 20, Potts is 22. I think Fernandez is 21. These are players. The good thing about these players is they're actually just going to get better and better the more they play. You know what I mean? So there's not many central midfields in the Premier League where out of the midfield three, you're going to have a 21-year-old and a 22-year-old, which I think bodes well for the future. But they need support in there. And I don't think Paquette is really the man to do that, but it seems to be working at the moment. But we've got bigger tests to come.
We have 3-2 win, Ben. Do you think that was a fair reflection? Do you think that it flattered us a little bit?
A little bit, Rob. Like I think if I was a neutral there, I'd say I think Burnley were unlucky a little bit. But no, it's one of those though, Rob. I'm not sure Burnley were unlucky. The game is about putting the ball in the back of the net, and even though they look quite pleasant on the eye in passages, we were more clinical in front of goal. So it is what it is. And a little honourable mention. I actually thought that Igor Julio looked half decent when he came on, and he didn't do loads, but what he did do, I thought, he looks fucking tidy on the ball, and I think he passed it to Souček when we scored the goal or something like that. He had a bit of an involvement, and I thought, hold on, let's not write this geezer off before he's had a chance,
Yeah, exactly. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. We said similar things about a certain Craig Dawson. That he was a lone player that came in, that the club that he'd come from didn't particularly rate him. He sat on the bench for a long time. He got an opportunity and he took it with both hands and became something of a cult hero. Now, is that going to happen with Igor? Well, that depends upon how things unfold in the upcoming days, weeks, months. But I'm same as you, mate. I'm like, I can't really sort of judge him as good, bad, or indifferent. I've not seen the geezer play.
Yeah. Do you know what, Rob, as well? And I'm sure we'll do a show about this in the future. So obviously the January transfer window's coming up fairly soon, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hermansen leave.
No, we've already. I'll be honest, that rumour's already out there because the fact that think about it like this: Finley Herrick was recalled from a loan spell at Boreham Wood, where he was doing really well, and he was recalled from it. It's not like he was recalled from the loan spell because he wasn't getting played, he wasn't getting involved in the squad. He was playing, and he was playing well, and we recalled him. Now you then have to ask yourself the question: why? Why would you do that? So I think a lot of people have already made that call. That is it possible that there's already been conversations behind the scenes and that Mads Hermansen is probably going to be on his way sooner rather than later? I don't know. We'll wait and see because he didn't exactly come in and set the world alight.
Well, that's probably understatement of the fucking year. But look, for me, we need a striker. I know.
I think we need a defender before that.
Oh, I don't. That's just my opinion. I don't.
Okay. I'd say it's just my opinion. I mean, I think for me, I guess I'm just a little bit old school in that. I know I know sort of like you need someone to put the ball in the back of the net, but you also need someone to stop. And the thing is, if you can keep a clean sheet, even if you don't score a goal, you've got a point. If you can't,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think, listen, we could do with both, but I just feel having someone that is mobile and quick and strong up front could make such a huge difference to the side. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like if you had someone, and you look at, was it Brentford? Who was the geezer up front for Brentford?
Thiago.
Yeah, like just someone like that actually it gives you the option that you can just clip it over the defence for the other team, and they can run onto it. That is a real threat. We just don't have that. You know, Wilson is a bit of a raspberry ripple.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, Igor was one that I was really frustrated. You know, when I watched him play when we had the game against Brentford, I was sitting there going, why the fuck can't we pick up either this player or a player with very similar skill set? Why are we sort of like lumbered with fucking injury prone centre forwards that are the wrong side of 30?
Yeah. Anyway, but look, I think it's an international break for the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we've got a tough run coming up, Rob. But you know, there's no easy runs in the Premier League. I think people are going, we got a tough run. Well, we got Bournemouth and Brighton, both of which, in terms of stature of club, we shouldn't be fearful of. Yeah, fuck me, And then Liverpool, who have been on a shit run, and Man United, who ain't worth a wank. So look, let's not shit ourselves over that 4 games. That's just the Premier League, yeah. And look, I think if we can just keep chipping away at the points, and then hopefully get to January and we're still in the fight, I think we've got to try and, as we've both said, up front and central defence. If we can try and strengthen there, then we're still in the fight to stay in the league, because I think that's probably the best we can hope for is, try and get to mid-table.
Okay. Any other final thoughts you want to bring it to the party before we knock it on the head, bruv?
I mean, not about the game, no, not really. But I just think, pleased with the 3 points, pleased for Nuno. And I just think with every game, he's starting to understand the players better. And we've got 2 weeks now that he can try and get his methods into the side even more. So, we're still in the fight.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us, Ben. And for those of you that are still watching this, please do make sure you drop a like on the stream. Give us a hype if you've got one available, and check to see if you've subscribed. It doesn't cost you any money to do so. It takes a second of your time, and we don't get any data sensitive information. And about now, you can see 2 videos on your screen and a little button in the center. If you click that, you'll be subscribed to the channel. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Come on, you Irons.